scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the scrub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it.
Oh, it's Saturday. It's a beautiful morning, and you are now tuned in to the coolest reptile podcast in the entire world. Yes, indeed. Top of the morning, afternoon, wherever you're at, you're tuned in to the right one. What's going on, everybody? I'm your boy MJ up in the building. This is your first time tuning in on this beautiful Saturday. Please do your boy a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. That way you're on top of every single trap talk I put out, all the trap clips. I put out shows twice a week, every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, pending the guest. And then and then I also do them Thursday nights as well, 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So I appreciate all my support out there, all my followers, all the early birds up in the building. You guys have been blowing it up since like 7:30 my time. You guys are savages. I love it. Speaking of savages, man, shout out to the sponsor, Cold Blooded Cafe. That's www.coldbloodedcafe.com. Freshest and best is delivered to your doorstep, anywhere from the day one pinks to the mammoth rats. Fresh and best. $30 flat rate shipping. You can't beat that. You got eggs, put them inside of a sim box, man. Proven fact. Eggs go inside of a sim box, you'll have a healthy animal come out of that egg, man. Humidity's on point. Less work. No substrate. Over water. Perfect. What else could you want, man? Future of enclosures, focus cube habitats. I am so stoked. My enclosure should be here like any second. I may need to go get the fed. I may need to sign for it if I hear the doorbell ring. So excuse me, if that happens. My wife's here, so I don't think that's gonna have to happen. But focus cube habitats. Shout out to Steve and shout out to Ashley. They're doing some big things over there. Make sure you check out their Instagram. Link in the description below. Shout out to Jesse and the Freedom Breeder crew. Stainless steel racks, man. They don't lose their value. If you got a Freedom Breeder rack, you know what the deal is. You should be happy. Pat yourself on the back because those are the real deals right there. I'm telling you. Shout out to Miguel Garcia. Always evolving pythons. Shout out to Ozzy Boyd's LLC, man. Two of the biggest inspirations in this industry for myself and for many, many others. And they support the channel. I'm just saying, man, you got to love it. And I'm saying, if you guys ever want to invest your shit and take it to the next level, hit up Miguel, hit up Ozzy, see what they got. They can really, really put you on, man. Just how they put many, many others on. But yeah, man, I'm going to talk about somebody else who's been putting us on. And that's Corey Woods. I'm excited. I'm excited for this morning. I'm telling you right now, because in the beginning, like I said, a lot of you who know that when I started keeping reptiles, I didn't instantly have an account where I was posting animals. I was just kind of slowly looking at accounts that were really catching my eyes and just like, wow, what the hell is this? And really just kind of putting a picture in my head. And this guy, Corey Woods from Canada, was one of these individuals. Like he has the same platform that he's had for ever since I've been following him. He doesn't miss a beat. Like he's on top of his stuff. And I really want to get to know him more. You guys know I love Canada, man. I've had a bunch of Canadian breeders on here and, my heart's in Canada, man. Fuck with Canada. Before we drop Corey in real quick, I do want to say shout out to all the early birds up in the building, man. I see you guys are popping off. I love you guys so much. I forgot to give you guys individual shout outs. I don't want to leave my man hanging too long, but you guys know who you are, all the early birds. Shout out to my Patreon fams who's up in the building. I'll talk to you guys definitely shortly after the episode when I'm done with Corey, but thank you for being here tonight, guys. But tonight, or this morning, excuse me, it's going to go down. And here we have Corey Woods from Canada with this sick ass mohawk, which I didn't know he was going to do that. And he is. And, you know, here he is. Corey Woods. What's up, baby?
Hi. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. It's an honor, bro. I'm telling you right now, this is really, really cool. You, like I was saying just now, you're definitely one of the first handful accounts that I would follow and just see, like, you know, the way you would post your pictures and, you know what I mean? It just wasn't lazy efforts from what I saw what you were doing. And it just like, I was like, okay, if I ever take this reptile stuff to another level, I like you just made a really good example on what professionalism looks like. So I want to give you kudos on that.
Well, I thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Sweet, man. So how are you? How's everything? You're in Canada. It's a little cold up there right now, right? Am I right?
It is cold. I'm not sure what it's in Fahrenheit. It's right now it's -9 Celsius. It's cold. And that's you know, it's noon here. You know, I think it's 9 a.m. out in California. So
Right.
it's about as warm as it's going to get today. So, you know, it's you learn to adapt where you are. We all we'll probably get into this later, but the way I breed ball pythons is different than the way you would breed them, and the way somebody in Arizona would breed them, or somebody in the UK. So you adapt to your own environment.
I talk about that all the time. Like, you know, there's people who always try to, you know, get advice on like, oh, well, what do you keep your room at? And what do you keep this at? And I'm like, man, that's like that. It all depends on their demographic. Like that has nothing to, like, you need to figure out what works in your room, you know, especially when it comes to pairing and breeding. Like, I'm sure you could, you know, anyone could raise something up for the most part, but when it comes to like, you know, the whole pairing side of things, that's when you kind of need to figure it out, which, yeah, we'll definitely get into that. By the way, it's 15 degrees, what he just said. -9 is 15 degrees. That's freaking cold. That's freaking cool. And I was telling you that it was like what when we were doing our sound check, it was 47 degrees, 48 degrees. And I'm like, whew, you know what I mean? Like taking deep breaths and yeah, man, 15 degrees. I'm just not going to bitch about my weather for sure. But Corey, man, like I was saying, you mean, I don't know how long you've been doing this. I want to know how long you've been doing this and whatnot. So let's kind of get into, what were you doing pre-social media platforms, and if this was a business before the social media platforms and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I got my first ball python in 1994.
Wow. And,
it was just, I got a female, got a pet. I went in 93. I went to a reptile show. It was kind of my first introduction. I kept turtles, ever since I was little, but, my first introduction to snakes was in 1993. So, worked on my parents. I still lived at home. I would have been, whatever, 12 or 13 at the time, and go to a show, work on the parents to convince them to have a snake in their house. And so I got my first ball python in 94. And then kept her for a couple years, and then in 96 I got some Burmese pythons, and ended up growing them up and breeding them. And at the time, I've said this to people before, people are really good at telling you what you can't do. So it's like, back in the early 90s, it's like, you'll never breed ball pythons, it's impossible, you can't do it. And so my kind of thought process was, if everybody's telling me this is impossible, like it's not, they can put a man on the moon, but you can't breed ball pythons. Then it's like, okay, people can breed Burmese pythons. So I'll get some Burms, I'll breed them. The knowledge that I learned from breeding the Burmese pythons, I'll apply to the ball pythons, and I'll, go that route. So, I bred Burms, and I think I produced my first Burms in 1999. And then I 98, 99. And then I bred the balls. My first clutch was in 2000. Mm-hmm. So I actually found that breeding ball pythons was easier than breeding Burmese pythons. I mean, they both bred for me, but I just had better luck with the balls. So, right. You have to you have to keep what you like, but you also have to know what you're good at. And when you're starting out, you don't know what you're good at. So you just, try blood pythons, try, boas. I did tortoises, I did turtles, I did green tree pythons. Some of that I'm good at, some of that I'm not good at.
Okay, let's be real though. Okay, with all due respect to the ball python keepers and stuff, I feel like, okay, if you wake up one morning or, even your child is like, I want to breed snakes. Like, I really want to breed snakes. I feel like the ball python is the very first thing you should try to do. And if you can't get a ball python to breed successfully out of an egg, I don't think breeding reptiles is for you. I don't, because that's pretty much the most easiest fucking like laid out design. Like they're tanks, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's just how, because I work with other species too, man. And they're fucking, I'm pulling my hair out where I'm just fucking doing dances in my ball python area, you know what I mean? Because things are just coming like clockwork. And I'm like, I knock on wood still because I hate to sound so like, oh, well, that's fucking in the bag. But but when they ovulate, it is like if that snake blows up, I see eggs every fucking time and they hatch every single time. And I'm just
it's a different time now. I mean, I'm not old. I'm not young anymore. I'm 40, and I grew up, I guess I want to say, in a different time because back in the 80s, 90s, the internet was just kind of starting to be widely available. You'd have to phone people to get advice, and back in the late 80s, early 90s, I mean, there wasn't a lot of people breeding ball pythons. And so most people had, they were getting wild caught adults, or they were getting, 1,000 gram, what they were calling, captive hatch, captive raised from Africa. You'd get them full of ticks and internal parasites. And, I remember, Roy Stockwell's, a pioneer up here in Canada. And, he was he bred ball pythons before I did. And he would tell me how he would get wild caught adults and he'd have to throw them. He'd take rubber boots as like a hide box. Cause I mean, nobody was making hide boxes back then. So you go grab a rubber boot and you throw a ball python in a rubber boot in a cage for a couple of years, and, it might eat 3 or 4 times. And, eventually you got it acclimated, and then you'd finally get it, to breed, and then you'd keep those babies back. So people are spoiled nowadays. Nobody wants to, go out and, get something and learn how to do it. They want, that I want to know instantly how to keep it. I want to know instantly how to breed it. I want to know how to do everything today. I want to be fully informed today. And that's not the way it was back when I started out.
That's why at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of arrogance that is unnecessary. Cause I'm like, yo, we have it pretty fucking made nowadays, where it's kind of like, not only do we have social media, but we have people who have been doing this, who are willing to let you know, this is what I've been doing and this is how it's done. And which social media, right? So, but man, dude, one thing that I'm like I can invest in it, but I'm like, dude, that's going to take fucking fun out of it for me, is getting an ultrasound. I don't want an ultrasound because, I mean, even though it like, okay, this is the perfect timing, I guess in a business mindset, and you have these clutches that you need, and I understand, but dude, me, like, I'm just fucking freeballing it, man. Wait, freeballing it?
See, I don't, again, I was taught, I'm like a mix of old school and new school. So, I was taught how to palpate, how to pick females up and look at them and look at their body. And, you hold them up, you put them on their back, you can see the follicles. I don't know an ultrasound. And I don't want to make fun of people that do have an ultrasound, because a lot of people have done really well with ultrasound, but I learned old school, just, pick up the female and look at her. And, for me, I can tell what she's doing just by looking at her. So there is value in ultrasound, but I don't have one. I was taught how to do it when ultrasounds didn't exist, or they were, you could probably get them, but they were, tens of thousands of dollars. So
yeah, they're still not cheap. And shouts to my boy Socrates. Now my boy Socrates, has fucking probably the nicest one of the nicest collection of basin emerald tree boas and chondros, and that's, you know, he's not ultrasounding ball pythons, like he's ultrasounding, you know, snakes like that, which I can understand. But bro, his ultrasound hooks up to his fucking phone. It just connects. So he has the device, hooks it to his phone, and everything is up right here. He could take screenshots of like the follicles, and it's $2,000 for that, by the way, $2,000. And I mean, I think it's worth it. But like I said, I want to challenge a little bit. I want to be challenged. And I want to trust like, okay, do I know this animal? Do I, you know what I mean? And a lot of times, bro, like, look, I think last year, Corey, was my first year where snakes, I thought, like, I was like, all right, here we go. Like, I had 4 females just not go for me. Like, they showed they were fucking, they looked big, got locks, everything looked great. They never ovulated, just never went.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's like, oh, well, like, I don't do this to pay my rent. You know what I mean? Like, I like rolling the dice, and I feel like this is a good way to gamble without having to have it become, well, I mean, it is addictive, but it's not a casino. I'm not smoking cigarettes, fucking putting money in a machine, fucking, you know what I mean? Like, this is my own way of just having fun. You know, this is my keeps the kid in me type fun. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah. So, all right. So I want to talk about your upcomings, right? So you said 94 was your first snake.
Yep.
Right. 94. And then you bought that snake with the intentions to breed, or just, hey, I love snakes, I want to just have it as a pet at that point?
Yeah. I got a female, so I didn't necessarily, decide I'm going to breed snakes, but it's like, I'm buying my first snake, let's get a female. So I got a female, and then, ended up growing her up and breeding her. But, I got in an order from the States from Nerd back in 1998, so it's like I got an orange ghost female, and, there was a pastel male come up on that order along with some other stuff. And, again, back in 98, it's like, you're buying stuff, and it's like, oh, I don't really know if I can breed them, but you think as long as I don't kill them, like, they still have value. And that's, when, again, you're a young kid, and, you're still living with your parents, and they're like, oh, what if you can't do it? You're going to buy, you're going to bring up thousands of dollars worth of stuff from the States. And what if it doesn't work out? And it's like, yeah, I can go buy a 4-wheeler right now. I mean, I worked for my money. It's my money. I had a job at the time. And so it's like, I can go buy a dirt bike, I can go buy a snowmobile, I can go buy a, whatever. And, I can go buy that dirt bike and wreck it. And then I've got nothing. Or as long as I, if I, buy a, orange ghost female, and if she never breeds, I can still sell her as long as she's still alive. Like it's, so when I kind of said it, it's like, don't kill them. That was like the game plan. It's like, keep them alive, and we'll go from there.
That should be okay. It's a good point, bro, because so many people, in generalities, like, would think they want to, like, oh man, I want to start a reptile business. Like, before they even before they, like, I want to say, have their snake longer than a year, they're already thinking about like branding, which branding's good, but as far as like breeding projects and stuff. But I'm like, yo, like, you've never kept a snake. Just make the snake stay alive for a little bit, which isn't hard, but just make sure you're capable of it. Some people can't keep a plant alive. No disrespect, but plant, you simply water it. Some people just can't simply keep a plant alive, right? Yeah. So what makes you think you're going to keep a damn snake? You can probably keep it alive because shit could go even longer without giving it water, which is terrible for it. But they'll fucking somehow survive. They'll live a shitty life, but they'll survive. But it just doesn't mean you should keep them. You know what I mean? And that's another thing about social media, unfortunately, man, is you see a lot of bad kept animals out there, man. And it's like, but you just kind of put the shutters on, unfortunately, because there's nothing you can do. Blasting people ain't going to do nothing. Trust me, I learned from that. That does nothing at all, period. Yeah. Now, I do want to ask, though, because, dude, your social media, man, is as big and legit as your following is, as far as, like, I'm sure you have legit customers from Instagram, right? Or, I mean, now, but you're not somebody who, I mean, like, this is my first time seeing your actual face other than your profile pic. Your profile pic is so iconic too, by the way. I was going to ask you for it because dude, that picture of you driving, you've had it for years. Like, it's such an iconic Corey Woods picture. And I always was like mysterious. Like, what is this guy like? Like, I'm just curious. Like, you know, he doesn't show his face on social media. Like, he's not like Miguel or like somebody who's like always, because, you know, nowadays that's what people have to do to build their following is they, you know, if I wake up and say, hey, I want to start an Instagram account with reptiles, you can't just, you know, just posting snakes nowadays ain't going to really cut it for the most part. You got to openly put yourself out there to kind of get that attention. But you've been doing this long enough. So you've had the establishment before getting into the social media platforms. So you've already kind of had like a buildup. Now, you're on Facebook, right? I'm assuming.
I'm on Facebook. I don't have a business page on Facebook. I just have a personal page. It's mostly snakes.
Okay.
I never got a business page on Facebook. You know, I've got Instagram that is more of a business page on Instagram. I guess I'm a little different than, like, you know, I've been around for a while. I've never viewed myself as a salesman. You know, there are some people in the industry that have, you know, great animals, but they're also really good at selling those animals. I'm sure there's a great group of guys in the States that are like that. But, you know, up in Canada, Mark Mandic, he's great at advertising and sales. Billy Rose, great salesman.
Savage.
You know, they're really good at engaging people and selling, and I'm more kind of like stand back, and I'm like, you know, here are the snakes I produced. You know, I'm not gonna upsell, I'm not gonna trash talk.
You're posting.
Here's some nice snakes I produced. I like them. I hope you like them too. But if you don't like them, that's fine. You know, I breed for me. And when I first started out, you know, I breed for me. So when I first started out, I was notorious for not selling females. So, you know, I'd produce a bunch of, you know, pied females, keep them back, you know, produce a bunch of albinos and all that stuff to kind of, you know, stuff that I needed to grow way back 20 years ago. And I'd keep them, and it would piss people off. They'd be like, Corey won't sell me females. And it's like, I'm keeping them for me. And you know, I've got a birthing record on my website. So the birthing record's a blessing and a curse, because it's a blessing because, you know, I've got a lot of long-term, you know, customers that buy from me every year. I produce quite a few animals a year, and, you know, I end up, you know, having a lot of repeat business outside of Canada. So I can just say to all those people, whether they're, you know, North America or Asia or wherever, to say, go to my birthing record, you can see what I'm producing. So it's good that way, but it's a curse that people can be like, you know, I see what you're producing, I see what you're going to sell me, and it's like, no, I'm keeping for me. So, you know, it's bad that way, to be like, well, you're seeing some of my holdbacks and I'm just not selling them. Now, with that said, everything is for sale, but you may not like the price. You know, if I'll sell you my house, I'll sell you my truck, I'll sell you whatever, but your
price,
there's a price to it, and it's going to be, you know, if it's something I don't want to sell, it'll be you know, a high price, and it's not to say that it's necessarily worth that, but you know,
the more it means, the more the green. You know what I mean? So that's just how it works. If it means that much to me, then I'm going to ask for more. That's just kind of how it works. You know what I mean? And that's what I respect about this game, Corey, is that you could come in, build your own foundation, and sell what you want for however much you want. It doesn't matter. It's your production. And one thing that, you know, because I am a salesman, dude, like, but I'm also real as fuck. Like, I was one of those salesmen who like told you straight up, like, yeah, like, you know, these are the numbers, you know what I mean? But my personality is what I try to, you know, win over with the people, is let them know I'm a real person. I'm not just trying to fucking sell you something. But at the end of the day, so that's my background, right? And I came into this and I would see how there would be people getting blasted for certain prices that they would do. And like, you know, like, oh, he's ruining the market or stuff like that. But I'm like, I look into it, I'm like, but that's his snake. Like he waited 3 years to make that snake. Like that's his snake. He could do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, how about you make that snake and you price it what you want? There you go.
Well, and that's what people don't realize. So, if I produce some pieds, how many pieds in a year are sold? 1,000, 10,000? Like, how many pieds are sold? So if I produce 50 or 100 pieds, it's not even like scratching the surface of the amount of pieds that are sold every year. So, to say that, oh, somebody's wrecking the market because they have 2 animals for sale. It's like, how can they wreck the market? Okay, they sell those 2 animals and now they're sold out. And so it's like, okay, you want to produce something that's, in demand and, selling right now for half price. Okay, when you're sold out, they're gone. And that's, the reality of it. And so if somebody calls me and says, oh, hey, somebody's got it for cheaper, it's like, well, then go to them. Like, get it from them. And that's, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, man. But anyways, like, it's just a lot of the complaining too. Like, I don't know if I'm just really good at just not looking at it now, but like a lot of the blasting and like, complaining that I used to see was a lot of like 2017. Like it was a lot of like, this industry's come a long ways, like, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, I don't know how much you pay attention to it, but like, man, it's blowing up. Like there's a lot of fucking reptile podcasts out there. This is the coolest one. So congrats. But there's this, there's a lot of information out there now, and it's crazy. It's amazing. It's fueling the passion people didn't even know that they had. I didn't even know. I mean, I always knew I loved animals. Like I've been put in positions where I knew, wow, I would love to work for animals someday, but like I didn't know it was going to be to this extent. And this all happened over the course of 4 years too. Like I said, when I stumbled across your page, Corey, I had 2 ball pythons and I was fighting 2 different directions on what life I wanted to live. And I was just in a really fucking rough place. So I would have just never knew, like it would have led to this. So this is, it's like I'm saying, this hobby has been industry has been a big blessing in so many ways. Again, it can only be a curse the way you want it to be a curse. You know what I mean? And the only cursings I want are like, hatch ratios and fucking, you know what I mean? Like those are the kind of, and nobody wants that, but I mean, those are the only kind of problems I really want, or fucking, damn, I should have hit that, or I should have hit this. But trust me, dude, I breed chondros, so I got plenty of problems. I got plenty of fucking. I mean, you mess with chondros at all? Have you ever messed with any of them?
So I learned years ago, chondros and me just don't work.
Tell me why. Please tell me why, so a lot of people could understand this. Let's hear about it, if you don't mind.
So I bet you I started keeping chondros. Don't quote me on this. 98, maybe 99. I bred them, 3 or 4 years in a row. I, bought I had, I don't know, 8 or 10 of them. I bought them as babies, grew them up, had them for, a while, and then I would breed them. And it's like, if I bought the adults as babies, it's like, okay, established babies, grew them up to be adults, breed them. I could do 9 out of 10 steps right. So it's like, I grew them up, I got the adults to breed. I got the female to ovulate. I got the female to lay good eggs. Yep. I incubated those eggs. I got those eggs to hatch. I could get those babies to eat. I couldn't get those babies to live. And so then you would be like, okay, maybe that was just a bad clutch. I'll try again next year. Same thing. You get right to the babies hatch, the babies are eating. They would die well in the process of eating. They would eat and then die. And it's like, I'm using pinky mice, and I bet you I bred them about 4 or 5 years in a row. And then I just decided, green tree pythons are just not for me. I can do 9 out of the 10 things right, but that last step, get babies to thrive, I just couldn't figure it out.
And getting them to eat is the hardest step. That's the hardest step.
I could get them to eat. I would have them eat a pinky and mouse, and 2 days later they're open up the bin and they're dead. And it's like, okay, I'm misting them. I'm doing, you know, everything that I think is proper for them. It's like I grew up the adults from babies. It's like again, it's like I'm really good with aquatic turtles. I am not good with tortoises. Tortoises hate me. And I back in the day, I had some Egyptian tortoises and I had some Russian and Greek tortoises. And it's like you'd go in and one's flipped over under the heat lamp, and it's like, and then one would randomly die and the other ones are eating it. And it's like, no, I'm really good with aquatic turtles, but tortoises, it's like a lot of people do great with tortoises. Tortoises and me do not get along. So, yeah. But I mean, I think everybody has to kind of, you know, find what you're good at. And in the process of trying to find what you're good at, you're going to find what you're not good at. So for me, it's tortoises and green tree pythons.
Okay. Respect. You know, but just so you know, like it's always something with the chondro, you know, it's like chondros equal people like, okay, what I like to say is green tree pythons equals people don't know. Like nobody knows. Nobody really knows why the fuck a chondro will ovulate and just die, or nobody knows why fucking female will be locked to a male and the female gets scared and rips the dick out of the male. Like, yes, that's a true story, by the way. Like there's just horror stories. There's just terrible stories with chondros, even with emeralds. I think of boreals in general. You know what I mean? They're just like, we're breaking the rules too much. I feel like we're literally like, you know, they're not in the wild. I'm sure there's just things they could get away with in the wild and that make them survive, but you bring them in here and it's a different ball game. Like the shit we feed them, everything's different. You know what I mean? So some are meant to live, some are meant to not live. And what's crazy is the people who are successful, like the ones who post clutches of chondros and stuff, a lot of people don't understand that those people go through a lot of bad clutches, or they go through a lot of like, dude, at the end of the day, people deal with more dead chondros than hatching out alive chondros. Yeah. Period. Every breeder will tell you that too. They will always tell you that. You know, you look. I remember seeing a clutch of Bill Stiegel. Shout to Bill. He posted a clutch one time that went 15 for 15. 15 eggs, all fucking 15 came out perched, looked beautiful, and I'm like, so obviously, like you can be perfect at it. And then when I went to go visit Bill in Texas, he was like, no, he's like, I have a lot more dead chondros under my belt than I do successful alive ones. And at the end of the day, that's what it is, bro. Like it's what you have to deal with. And a lot of people just don't have that gut. Like, you know, for instance, you got tired of seeing them die, and a lot of people fight through that and just try to figure it out. But you were just like, hey, listen, I'm not good at this, or I don't want to continue to go through this. You got real with yourself. And a lot of people just can't get real with themselves, or just basically are just selfish and don't care and still want to do something that they're not good at. To each their own. You know? Yeah. That's a good, you know, it's good to know. Now, do you remember what kind of localities or what it was you were working with, or were they just like, you know, really cool looking, or like what were your chondros like?
Yeah, so I had the, you know, one of my really nice females that I had for a while. You know, I had a couple BX. There was a couple I want to say Jayapuras. Yeah. And there was a couple where it's like I didn't know the locale on, so you would look at, you know, they would be like in a roux type or whatever. Right. I think I had about 7 or 8, and you know, I've got all the pictures. You know, it looks great. Like on paper, it looks great. It's like, you know, a female coiled around eggs, and then you got the little head sticking out, and you know and that's the thing with social media. It's like you can make everything look wonderful. So it's like I could post all of these pictures of like, oh, look at all these amazing green tree, you know, babies hatching and how amazing they are, and it's like, you know, it's then you don't hear the after effect of it's like every baby died and I just couldn't get them to work. Right. So.
Yep. I mean, and I mean, that's why I'm any chondro breeder I brought onto the show, and I have another show called Unfiltered Reptiles Podcast. They don't hold back, man. They just fucking let it out, you know. And I had this guy James Opdale, who's like legendary, like one of the most recent legendary chondro keepers, and he talked more about his tragedies than he did his like success, you know. And like, but he was just You was saying it what it was. He's the one I got that dick story from. And I was just like, oh my, it was pretty shocking, bro. Like it was pretty shocking, you know. And but it's just it's kind of the slap of reality that everyone needs every now and then. You know what I mean? Like it's because it's the truth. You know, there's so much pain that could come with what we do, and it will come at some point. Like they're animals, it's gonna come. You know.
Yeah.
Oh man, wild. Anyways, all right. So thank you for sharing that chondro part of your life with me. I appreciate that. Hey, maybe one day though, who knows, Corey? Maybe one day. Maybe there was maybe a step you're doing wrong. Who knows? It could be something like that could be fixed.
And it's like I've bred a variety of stuff. I've always had ball pythons. It's like I started, my first snake was a ball python. I've never like not had a ball python. I mean, now I've got hundreds of them. So, but it's like I bred like Erie carpet pythons. I bred the Burmese pythons, blood pythons, the little like the I want to call them like a Stimson's python, some of the little guys,
right,
you know, and so it's like I kind of I bred a bunch of different locales of boas, and you know a lot of that stuff. If it's a boa or a python, that's mainly terrestrial, I seem to do pretty good with it. It's the arboreal stuff. So
yeah, I mean, and yeah, day by day, who knows? Now, okay, let's get to the stuff you're really good at, the ball pythons. Now, getting back to the breeding, you're up and comings with the breeding and whatnot. Now, I mean, I hear stories, man, on like normals going for like thousands of dollars at one point, and like pastels, and like just the pioneer genes you hear just going for so much. So I want to hear what were the first couple things you invested in that really kind of got your platform going to where it's at right now.
So I when I started, keeping the normal in 94, and then, I bought, an orange ghost and a pastel and some other stuff in 98. And then I started, kind of breeding them, and it's like I got a pastel male and an orange ghost female. Let's breed them together. And then you finally produce like pastel orange ghosts. And then it's kind of like, okay, where do you want to go from here? So I think it was around 2001, I want to say. Again, I think I've forgotten more than I've retained as far as memory goes. So, maybe it was 2003, maybe it was 2001. A long time ago, I bought a pied male from Ralph Davis, who's another great breeder, in the States. He's out in Maryland, and he's kind of low key now. And again, when you're younger, you want to be, myself included, it's like, I want to be out on the internet, and I want to be, as loud as possible, and I want to be as rude as possible, and I want to fight with everybody. And then when you become 40, it's like, I'm not dealing with anybody on the internet. It's like, I'm just going to be quiet. I'm just going to keep to myself. So, a lot of the older breeders are kind of like that now. So I got my first pied from Ralph. I want to say 2001. I think he was 21,500. And again, a lot of, you again, everybody's good at telling you what you can't do. So it's like, don't breed a pied, you'll fail. Like, and then it's like, I go buy a pied. And then it's like, he'll never breed, you'll fail. And it's like, and then he breeds. And then, some of the guys that told me, it's like, you'll never get him to breed, you'll never sell, hets, you'll never produce pieds. It's like, those are some of the guys that bought het pieds from me, and so, yeah, I bought that pied male for 21,500. But the first year he bred, I was selling het pieds for like 5,000 a pair. So I think I produced like 10 pairs that year. So you think, okay, first year of production, 50,000 in hets. I haven't even produced a pied. And so again, I kept a bunch of the females, and sold pairs and hets. And then I want to say 2003, 2004, I bought a lesser platinum, which is now just called lesser, from Ralph Davis. Again, it was 25,000. I bought a genetic stripe male from Ralph. Again, the genetic stripe, I want to say, was around 25,000 as well, and some het genetic stripes. And again, when I bought the genetic stripe, I love genetic stripe, but when I was getting into genetic stripe, it was a toss up between a clown and a genetic stripe. So there was one genetic stripe from Ralph for 25,000, and there was one clown from Tracy Barker, VPI down in Texas for 25,000. So it's like, if I don't have 50,000, I only have 25,000. What am I buying? Am I buying a genetic stripe? Or am I buying a clown? I flipped a coin. I got genetic stripe. I love genetic stripe. I do tons with genetic stripe. I would have made lots more money with clown because, you know, if 5% of the ball python hobby wants to keep genetic stripe, it seems like 50% want to keep clown. So, but I always tell people, you got to like what you work with, or you got to work with what you like, you know? And so people say, what should I buy? And it's like, buy what you like. And it's like, no, wrong answer. I want you to tell me what to buy. It's like, well, buy what you like. If you like, you know, you like looking at some gene maybe that I don't work with, go buy that. But yeah, it's, again, everything. I liked it. I've got OCD and a little bit of ADHD. And so it's like,
Me too. I was like, I like this guy. Oh, I really like this guy. Yeah. Bro,
so it's like, I liked picking ball python morphs when there was like 5 choices. You know, it's like you get an albino or a pied or a pastel, you know, and those are your choices. And now there's like 1,000 choices. And I almost, you know, if we kind of, you know, fast forward to 2021, people ask me about genes that I don't necessarily, you know, follow or pay attention to, and maybe I should, but you know, people will ask me a question about the confusion gene, and I'll be like, well, I'm just as confused as you because I don't know anything about it. And they'll say, oh, you know, what about, you know, the acid gene or something? And it's like, a part of me feels like, you know, am I, you know, not following, you know, am I not paying attention? You know, should I know this stuff? But then it's like, it seems like there's 1,000 genes out there. I just can't keep track of everything. And
dude, it's too much. It hurts.
Yeah.
It makes my head hurt. That's why I mean, to be honest, Corey, like, you know, I got into this heavy with the ball pythons, right? And then, you know, I was kind of the guy who was just buying stuff based off how it looked, you know, because I found, you know, when I started liking stuff, I was like, wow, I can get this stuff quicker than I thought I could get it. So it just started happening. But then I was like, oh shit, what's a recessive? And I was like, oh, what does that mean? You know, and I was like, wait, what? So if these two just don't, I can't get what I want if these two just go together, you know what I mean? So I had to sit back and look at everything. I was like, dude, I need to fucking, this is too much. Like, I'm not feeling it. So I ended up keeping with what I knew I wanted to make, like just stuff like, you know, like GHI was one of them. Orange Ghost was one of them, which I'm really happy you're here for that, because I can't wait to talk to you about Orange Ghost. But anyways, there was this certain genes that I didn't want to let go of, and I kept it. And, you know, here we are 4 years later, and I am so happy with what I have. You know what I mean? And it's stuff that I've wanted to keep. I didn't care. You know what I mean? Even if somebody told me that, oh, you know, like, you know, whatever, this and that, I just kept what I wanted to like. And that's kind of what you should do, man. Because at the end of the day, no matter how it's going to be, I mean, one thing could always be hot one day, and the next day it's just like, what happened to the price on that? Yeah. You know, and if you're keeping it for something other than the price tag, then you're always going to enjoy keeping it. Right.
Yeah. Well, so. And if it could be snakes, it could be stocks, it could be bonds, it could be anything. If you're chasing the market, you know, you're kind of in it for the wrong reasons. And, you know, I remember, I don't know, go back 10 years, you know, 1 year fire was hot. Everybody had to have a fire. And it's like, but, you know, if you're producing fires the year that the fires are hot, that's great. If you're buying the fires, you better be buying them because you want to work with it. Because by the time you grow it up and breed it, and now it's producing 2 or 3 years later, it doesn't necessarily mean people are going to want to buy fires. So if you're buying it because it's like, I'm going to become a millionaire, you know, working with fire, you know, it's the wrong reason. You should be, you know, the people that bought that gene because they wanted to work with that gene and introduce it into their collection and do amazing stuff with it, then, you know, they did well. But if you're chasing a market, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, man. And, you know, but at the end of the day too, you know, this is a business, right? I mean, there's business strategies behind it, which, you know, you could come in at that as well, because I mean, what do you think about the people who come in with a good chunk of money? You know what I mean? They come in with 6 figures, and they actually do pretty well with it. Like there's actually, you know, there's actually breeders like listed as far as like they're doing really well with that. But then there's also other ones who are just one hit wonders and they just disappear. Right. But I mean, what do you feel that strategy should be if you're coming in and you're like, man, I got this money and I want to do something with it and I want ball pythons? What do you
Well,
feel?
I think like when, you know, way back when, you know, to get into ball pythons back in the 90s and the early 2000s, it's like, you know, I worked all through high school, and then, you know, I graduated high school, and now it's like, now I'm working a full-time job. So, you know, I'm able to, you know, I was making good money, so I was able to put some money into ball pythons. So, I mean, you know, I started off slow, but I you know, if you're buying a pied for 21,000, I mean, the goal is to try and make, you know, your money back at the very least, if not to try and make some, you know, keep what you want, make some money off that. And again, you know, if you're buying a lesser for 25,000, you know, you want to, you know, you want to make sure that animal lives and hopefully breeds. But, you know, people get all crazed. Again, it's like buying stocks and stuff. People get all crazed. You know, I remember when I bought my lesser male for 25,000, and a couple of years later, they dropped in price. They dropped to you know, like the first year I bred them, you know, they dropped to 10,000.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I produced 5 of them. So it's like 5 or 8, whatever it was, you know, I kept a group of them, but it's like, the first year I produced them, I still made my money back. So, you know, even if they were 10,000 a piece, you know, if I sell 3, that's 30,000, you know, I've now recouped my initial investment. And not only do I have the initial male, now I've got some of his offspring. So it was a couple years later that, you know, lessers were down to, I think, 2,500 a piece. And people were just like going crazy. They were like, I was getting messages to be like, oh my God, you must be like just devastated that lessers are down to 2,500. And that was the year I think I produced like 50 of them. And so it's like, well, why would I be upset at lessers at $2,500 if I just produced 50 of them? Like, and so, you know, if you're going to have, you know, money to get in and buy some. Anybody can get into the hobby. Anybody can buy a pastel, and they can buy a normal, and they can produce pastels and normals. And, you know, the level of excitement doesn't necessarily match, you know, the paint job on the snake. You can be just as excited to see babies hatch out of an egg. They can be complete normals, and you can be like, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. So, you know, you don't necessarily have to have a lot of money to get in. But I mean, back in the early 2000s, you know, when everything was super expensive, it's like, you know, you kind of had to be like laser focused and be like, okay, you know, I'm getting a genetic stripe. What am I going to do with that? How am I going to, you know, work that into my existing collection? Because you're buying a genetic stripe for 25,000. Now, I mean, if you had, you know, there's a couple genes that are still, you know, up in that price range, but, you know, you're not necessarily now buying one snake for 25,000. You could be buying, you know, 10 snakes for 25,000, and you're still getting some amazing snakes for that money. I find it's not necessarily the money that kind of, you know, burns people out. It's you got to get in slow, and you gotta love the animals. You gotta love working with the animals. You gotta love the terrible things that happen. You know, snakes don't eat. Something randomly dies. You know, babies hatch out. Doesn't mean they're gonna necessarily eat right away. Like, you know, there's a lot of joy, but there's also a lot of frustration. You know, in learning and keeping, you know, snakes. But it could be anything. You could be learning to fish for the first time or whatever. I mean, there's going to be some heartbreak there and some frustration. I find the people that don't do well in the hobby are the people that are like, they get their first snake and then 6 months later they have like 100 of them. They just went crazy. And it's like, you can see them. It's like, that guy's going to burn out. That guy's going to be gone in 2 years because it burned him out. So, yeah, my advice usually to people is go slow, don't go crazy, you know, think about what you're going to do, think about how you're going to manage everything. You're muted.
Sorry, but I had to run out because I had somebody here and I had to tell my wife to do something. I muted myself. I'm so sorry.
Well,
But no,
I'm like, why? I'm
well,
like, is this a problem on my end? We don't have the best internet, so I'm like, is this my end? It's like, no. Okay, good.
Your internet's been fine. That was totally my fault. No, what I was saying is I feel like people who do come in here with the money aspect and, you know, they just, I feel like the biggest, some of the problems, that people do is put themselves on a pedestal with these high expectations and they expect something to big happen within the first couple years. And, you know, you just can't put a timeline on any of this that we're doing. Like it just, like stuff just kind of just starts fitting in with itself, like little by little, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like you're just the one thing you don't want to do is take the fun at what we're doing, because this is supposed to be fun. Like this is fucking awesome. Like this is, yeah, the waiting part sucks, right? You know, for the most part, depending where your mindset's at. But once things start flowing in, you know what I mean? And you have that mindset of just looking 5 years down the road, shit's always fun. Ever since I just been looking 5 years down the road constantly, things have just been having, I just been having a lot of fun. I've been having a good time. So, I don't know. I think mindset is a big part of it, you know, and that's depending.
Well, I find sometimes with new people, they want to try, I don't know if it's, they want to try and impress you and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I like making money. Don't get me wrong. But I find some new people, they want to try and, you know, bully their way in or whatever to be like, you know, I'll give you an example. So, you know, I've been keeping pastels, orange ghosts, and pieds for a long time, early 2000s. So it's like I've got a bunch of orange ghost pied females, pastel orange ghost pied females that are big. They're old. They produce lots of eggs for me. You know, I'll have a new guy call me up and say, I'm buying one of your breeder female pastel orange ghost pied females. It's like, no, you're not. And they'll be like, well, look at all this money I have. You're selling me one. And it's like, no, I'm not. So, you know, it doesn't matter if I've got 12 of them, you can't buy one. And then they'll, you know, you'll have the odd guy. It's like, oh, look at this stack of money I got. And it's like, dude, that doesn't impress me. And now you're really not getting one, you know? So I find sometimes newbies try and like, I don't know if it's, they're trying to make an impression or whatever, but it's like, look at me, look at all this money I have. I'm going to bully you into doing something. And it's like, no.
People always think other people could be bought, like, you know what I mean? And they don't, I don't know. It just, they learn quick though. You know, I respect everything you're just saying. It's awesome. I mean, it's getting me like, I'm like, yeah, good fucking, because that's shit that you've produced. Like it's your work. It's like kind of forcing artists to sell them art that they don't want to let go of, you know, and you're, you know, and sorry, but anyways, so, but yeah, it's a good point. And I like the way how you broke that down, because it just, no, it's a good way to think about it, to be honest. Now talking to, because you're talking about like these fucking crazy investments you've made with Ralph Davis and whatnot. So what were you doing prior to like actually making money off snakes? Or do you even do snakes at full time right now? Or what is the snake?
Yeah, so I've been full time with snakes since I want to say 2005.
Okay.
So, you know, it's been a good 15 years that I've been full time. You know, I used to have a couple employees. Now I've got one employee. You know, he's a great guy. I don't know, you know, where I'd be without him. But yeah, I mean, that's one of, you know, when you have OCD and you have a way of doing something, and then you get, you know, you get busy, and then it's like, I need help. It's like, I need somebody here to help me feed and clean. And, you know, I had a couple employees, and now I've got, you know, kind of like one all-star employee. But nobody does it the way that you do it. And so it's like, that's one of the things that I kind of struggled with, you know, way back when it's like, I need somebody to clean snakes and I need somebody to feed them. And it's like, you know, you're having people in and they're not doing it exactly the way that you do it. And it's like, but then at the end of the day, it's like, I I want as many mouths fed as possible. So, you know, sometimes you just have to let stuff go and be like, you know, they're feeding the snakes, they're all eating, it's all great. Like, calm down a bit.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, like, let's talk about your, you know, how much has your feeding evolved since the beginning days? You know, like, because I'm sure there was different feeding methods, or like, let's, for instance, you worked with berms before ball pythons, right? So
Yeah.
ball pythons, when you were actually working with ball pythons, was what year? Like, what year was that?
So the first year that like, if you kind of like, the first years when I really started, you know, breeding them, you know, consistently, so it's like you're having more than, you know, 1 or 2 clutches, you know, you're having, now you're, and it's like you're, you know, you're having 10 or 20 or 30 clutches a year. It would be the, you know, the early 2000s.
Okay.
And then I, you know, I kind of transitioned out of the Burmese pythons in the early 2000s as well. But, you know, I also kept blood pythons. You know, I've kept boas for a while. It's a lot different. Like, you know, Burmese pythons eat every time, you know, boas eat every time, like blood pythons eat every time. And I don't want to hear from somebody say, oh, well, I've got a Burmese python and it, you know, it only eats, you know, 50 times out of 52 times. It's like, okay, I get that, you know, but like, when, you know, you're keeping ball pythons, it's like, you know, maybe they eat 30 times a year, you know, it's maybe they eat 10 times a year. Who knows? I mean, I had a couple back in the day, wild caught females. I had one female go 56 weeks without eating. And then she ate a medium rat, and then, you know, she didn't eat for like another 20 weeks. It's, you know, it's crazy. I mean, now we don't necessarily have those same problems now that, you know, ball pythons are, you know, 5, 8 or so generations, you know, captive bred, but they're not a blood python, you know, they're not a boa, you know. And so, you know, again, if I'm dealing with, you know, established customers, or I'm dealing with people that are used to keeping snakes, it's not generally an issue. But I find, you know, newbies get in the hobby and they kind of have maybe unrealistic expectations. And they don't know they're not unrealistic expectations. They'll be like, you know, I only buy babies that eat frozen thawed rats. And it's like, okay, that's great, but babies just don't hatch out eating frozen thawed rats. You know, it's, you know, maybe you'll get the odd one to do that. But if I produce 1,500 ball pythons, you know, in a season, you know, I don't even start them on rats. I feed them live hopper mice, and I start them on that for, you know, a good, you know, 6 or 8 meals before I try and transition them over to rats. And my preference is I want everything to eat rats, but again,
Right.
that's not realistic. I have some of my best producing females will only eat mice, and they're like the bane of my existence. But it's like, I don't want to sell them because it's like, they're big. Yes, they eat like, you know, 6 mice at a time, but, you know, they're giving me 12 egg clutches, and they're just, you know, don't want to get rid of them.
Yeah, I hear you. Those are like the yeah. You don't want to let go of those ones, the special ones. But like with the whole, like, I always, like, you know, that was the mindset I was taught when I first got into this industry about, like, you know, like I said, about 4 years ago. And, you know, you want to get them over to the rats. And then I just started recently hearing that some breeders purposely keep their males on mice, you know, to keep them slim, like slender. I mean, do you feel like that's a good strategy or a good technique, or could be? I mean, what do you think about that?
I think if it works for you, then it's a good strategy. Like, if it works for you and the animals, it's a good strategy. So if you look at a hopper mouse, you know, they're not an adult, you know, they're like, you know, a teenage mouse, but they still have a skeletal structure that is able to support their body and allow them to run around. So, you know, it's not a fully formed skeletal structure, but they have, you know, it's a structure that's forming there. And so there's bones, there's calcium, there's cartilage, you know, there's going to be, you know, a lot of extra nutrients there, where when you're talking, you know, a fuzzy rat, I mean, that's just butter in a bag. Like, if you really want to kind of be honest with it, like, you know, there's not there's not a lot of bones, there's not a lot of cartilage. So you're literally, it's fat in a bag, and that's what the snake is eating. And so, you know, yes, baby balls, you know, eat, or, you know, they will grow quicker on, you know, fuzzy rats and rat pups. But I mean, I'm going to grow not necessarily in the right direction either, you know, if I'm just eating butter all day, you know. So it's, you know, it's, you know, so they do grow quick, you know. If it's butter in a bag, you know, fuzzy, it's, you know, they grow quick. But you know, there is that skeletal structure. A lot of people use the ASFs or the Natel rats. I don't use them at all. There's one province in Canada, Alberta, that you can't have live rats. They're actually banned in the province. So some of those guys, if they can't get mice, they have to use hamsters or gerbils or whatever. But yeah,
whatever works, whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you feed your female adults? Like, are they on mediums? Do you keep them on smalls? Like, how do you do that part of your feeding?
So I only, the largest size now I feed is a small rat, and that's even for my biggest females. I found years ago, you know, you would have a good sized female, and you know, she'd be consistently eating, and then, you know, you'd open up your bag of medium rats, and you know, size is sometimes consistent, sometimes not. So it's like, you know, you kind of get down to your last females, and you open up that bag of rats, of mediums, and it's like, oh damn, these are like, you know, the breeder upgraded me and now they're small larges or whatever. And I hate when rodent breeders think, oh, I'm going to upgrade you. It's like, no, I need the, like, if, you know, if I need small rats, I need smalls, or if I need, you know, hopper mice, I need hoppers. You know, if I don't want your free upgrade. I need, you know, the size that I need. But, you know, you'd have that bag of medium rats, and then, you know, there'd be, you know, small larges in there, and you'd feed them to your females, and they would eat it. But then they'd go off food for 6 or 8 weeks or 3 months. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, I don't know if I lost MJ or not, or did they lose me? Hello? Oh, okay. I'm just reading the comments here. I guess I'm full screen. Weird. So if I'm still on, I would find that the, you know, you would have a female that would, hang on. Okay, now this is distracting, these comments. Okay. So I would find a female, you'd feed her a bigger rat. She would.
Yes, you're there. Thank God. Keep going. Jesus.
Okay.
All right. Sorry.
Well, I started to read the comments, and people were saying, "Oh, you're still there. Keep going." And it's like, "Oh, this is
dude. This is the second time this fucking platform's done this. I'm heated. So, you know, I'm glad you're here. Sorry, shit, my bad, bro. Sorry, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, no problem.
All right,
so,
cool.
we were talking about, feeding medium rats and why I don't do it anymore, because it's like, you throw out a bag of mediums, there's larges in the bag, the rodent breeder upgraded you, and you'd feed them off, and all the females would eat them, and then they go off food for 6 or 8 weeks or 3 months at a time. And it would be so frustrating because it would always happen in, February or March or April, when it's like, okay, I want all these females to eat. I want them to, put on weight to hopefully have enough, for follicle development and to ovulate and produce eggs. And then they'd go off food because a big food item, scared them. So, long time ago, I just started. The biggest food item I feed now is smalls. And if if I've got a huge female, then I'll end up double feeding her a small, so she might get 2. But yeah, I kind of learned years ago not to do mediums because it just kind of freaks out some of the females. So, other people, maybe mediums in Canada are bigger than mediums other places. I don't know, but it's, for me, it's just mediums were too big in my experience.
And then, for the most part, you feel like, people could feed mediums. It just is not making a huge difference otherwise. Like you're just literally putting more food into them that you need to, basically.
Well, and you'd look at, if you say, let's say you hashed out a clutch and you kept, 3 sisters, one eats mice, one eats small rats, one eats medium rats, you look at them at the end of it, like if you've kept them now for 5 years or whatever, and it's like, the one will eat medium rats, but it's actually smaller than the one that eats small rats, because the one eating small rats, not necessarily eating every week, but probably eats, 35 times a year, which for a ball python, that's going to be eats every time because they don't necessarily eat in shed or whatever. And then it's like you'd have the medium feeder a little bit smaller because she only ate maybe 10 times a year. And then it's like, for me, it's frustrating when they don't eat. So it's like, I want them to eat every week. So I'm happy feeding them smaller meals. And I think it's a lot healthier for them anyway.
I like that idea. I really do. Yeah. I was just like, the way I was brought into it was like, feed the living shit out of them, get these fuckers as big as possible. And I was like, all right, like, you know what I mean? Like, so, but then like, obviously after, getting relationships with people on Instagram and, getting mentors and stuff, I was obviously like understanding that's not like, that's not the ideal way, especially for breeding. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want just a fat female all the time. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways.
Well, there was a couple, breeders up here, years ago where, they would have, 6-month-old males that are 500 grams. And it's like, well, if they hatch at 75 grams, they're feeding them every, 3 days, and they're feeding them a big meal every 3 days. And yeah, when you look at it, if you look at a little space of time, it's like, oh my God, that snake is 6 months old and 500 grams. I'm a superstar, or that breeder's a superstar, everything looks amazing. But then when you see that male, drops dead for no reason at 1.5 years because his liver and kidneys are blown out, it's like nobody references that to be like, okay, it was great. You got it to breed at 1 year old because it got to be 1,000 grams at 1 year old, and then it died at 1.5 years, and people are like, I don't know what happened. He was doing great. Everything was fine. He just randomly died. And it's like, yeah, because all that food blew out his liver and kidneys. So it's not necessarily the healthiest thing to get an animal 500 grams at 6 months old. But people hear that experience and be like, oh my God, breeder X has, 500 gram males. He's amazing. And then people start to have that expectation. It's like, well, why are your 6 months olds only 2 grams? And it's like, because mine are the healthy, proper size, and if you say to those people, it's like, that male's probably going to be dead at 2 years old. It's like, oh, you're just jealous. You're just trash talking that other breeder. And it's like, okay, then go buy them ones from the other breeder,
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. It's crazy insight. Now, let me ask you this. when it comes to your female laying clutch, right? Do you like to keep it on, like, you know, obviously getting it back up to the same weight that it was or like, you know, prior to the clutch, right, is what you want the goal to be. But I mean, you just always keep it one small rat a week as soon as possible, as soon as you can get her after she lays the clutch, and you don't change that at all. Like, it's just once a week, and you don't spike it. You don't spike it during, like, you know. You know, because I mean, let's admit a lot of their hunger spikes up, and they act like extra hungry. You know what I mean? And I've seen that because, you know, for the most part, I feed my adults mediums, and I will feed them a medium, and they will take another medium if you let them. Like, they want more. You know what I mean? So that's why I was curious. You keep males, females, one small rat, all across the board once a week.
Yeah. Especially males. Keep males on once a week, especially when they come out of breeding. If they've been off food for a while, and we all make this mistake, and I make this mistake about once every 3 years because I forget. You know, again, it's like you lose some of the information that you've learned over time, and you know, sometimes it happens pretty much every week here. It's like, okay, you know, I get in my live order, I get in my, you know, I thaw out my frozen stuff to thaw out, to feed. You know, when going into breeding season in November, it's like numbers are going down, numbers of animals eating are going down. And then as the females either are building for follicles, or they've already laid their eggs, or males are now going back on food, they're kind of ramping up, where it's like every week more are going back onto food. But I make this mistake every couple of years. A female can take more food than a male. So you'll have a male's come off, hasn't eaten for 6 months. You feed him a small rat, and he eats it. And then at you're done that day, and it's like, I got 10 extra rats. I got to feed them to somebody. You go back and you're like, that male hasn't eaten for 6 months. He almost took my hand off. I'm going to feed him another rat. He'll eat it. I've had this probably happen to me 10 times. 3 days later, that male's dead in the bin. And you open up the bin and you're like, I don't know what happened. And it's just, he got overloaded by food and his system just couldn't take it. And it's not necessarily the first meal. I've had males where they've eaten, you know, they haven't eaten for 6 months. And now they've eaten, you know, 5 or 6 weeks in a row. And then you give them a double meal, the same thing has happened to me. So it happens to you, and he's like, oh man, I remember when that happened to me 3 years ago. Why did I do this again? And you forget. And then they remind you that you've forgotten.
Yep. And sometimes you get those reminders quicker than you think, you know what I mean? And that's another thing, man, when you're so seasoned at like doing your breeding stuff, there's like small steps you just forget to do sometimes. And then like, you know, there's either, you know, hard ways or easy ways of finding it out, but you're going to find out either way. Now, man, you ship a lot, man. I mean, like, I don't know, from what I've seen, like you do crazy shipments overseas here and like, is that kind of like once a year, or is it more than once a year? Like that you're sending like big freights of stuff over to Europe or wherever you send it to?
Yeah. So I'm like, again, I've kind of structured my business a little bit different. You know, because I produce anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 ball pythons a year, you know, I do a lot of wholesale. And so, because I do a lot of wholesale, you know, I've got a lot of, you know, existing customers that I like to keep happy. And so I kind of make the reference, you know, you see a lot of these big telecom companies, you know, some of them are the same in Canada and the US, and some of them are different. But, you know, up here in Canada, you got like phone companies, you know, in the States, you've got AT&T. Up here, we've got, you know, Bell, Telus, Shaw. All of the big companies want new customers. They're like, we don't care about our existing customers. We just want new customers. For me, I want to keep my existing customers happy. And I don't want to say, you know, it kind of sounds terrible where, you know, it's like, I'm not saying I don't care about new customers. I love new customers, but I want to keep my existing customers happy. And so, you know, I have existing customers that I've been selling, you know, wholesale shipments to for 10, 15 years. And so I want to, you know, keep them happy. So, and it's not necessarily clients in Canada, they're clients all over the world. And, you know, I ship a lot to South Korea. You know, I've shipped, you know, lots of stuff to Japan. You know, every country, you know, I would ship a lot to Japan, and then I wouldn't ship anything for 3 years. And then I'd ship a lot to Japan and then nothing for another 3 years. It, you know, as kind of, you know, economies go up and down, and, you know, I've just been lucky where if they stop buying stuff in Japan, you know, maybe they start buying it in South Korea, or they start buying it in Europe or whatever. So I've been able to always send shipments out, you know, all around the world. So with me keeping my existing customers, you know, I try and keep them happy as best as I can. I'll be the first one to tell you the customer is not always right. I find sometimes with customers, you know, you'll send them 2 or 3 shipments, and then they start to get a little demanding to say, okay, well, you know, I'm buying this for wholesale, but now I'm only going to pay you half a wholesale, and this is the way it's going to be. It's like, no, this is not the way it's going to be. Right. But I try and keep my existing customers happy, and I guess I've just been lucky where, you know, I've, you know, been around for such a long time that I've got, you know, existing relationships with some customers that take bigger orders. And then I've also, you know, people will do group shipments, and then I'll have some of the people that gotta, you know, let's say I'll ship something to South Korea. And then one of the people that got one of the animals on that shipment will be like, oh my God, I love this animal. I'm going to go and get an order directly. So I know international shipping kind of scares some people, and doing CITES paperwork and health certificates and all that stuff can be scary. Once you learn how to do it, it's just the way you do it. It's the process.
Yeah. Just like anything else, anything is all based off your process, you know, and processes are, you know, learned throughout time. And I'm sure you've learned what you deal with your customers, and, you know, how you sell your snakes and whatnot. Production wise, like, what are you looking at each year, clutch wise?
My largest production year, I think, was 268 clutches. This past year I did, in 2020, I did 208 clutches. So, you know, whatever, if they average, you know, 6 eggs a clutch, you know, it's over, you know, typically anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 animals. And that's why I almost feel like I'm maybe at a little disadvantage, because I'm mostly wholesale and I do a little bit of retail. And, you know, you do linear markets, so a lot of the higher end stuff will go retail, a lot of the lower end stuff will go wholesale. But, you know, when again, sometimes I feel disadvantaged when you produce, you know, 1,000 animals. You know, I don't necessarily get to have that personalized experience with, you know, somebody buying, you know, their first snake or whatever, because it's like, I'm not necessarily the guy that's gonna, you know, take 1,000 pictures of one snake, and, you know, people, oh, can I get a video of it eating? Can I get can I get 4 pictures of its belly? And it's like, no, that's not me. So there's benefits and drawbacks with every kind of business model you have. And with me mostly being a wholesaler that does a little bit of retail, I kind of miss out on some of those, you know, personal experiences with people just getting in, you know, for the you know, the hobby.
Yeah. Right. Now your pricings and stuff, like, I mean, how much different is that compared to, like, you know, United States? So I'm sure Canada has its pricing, United States has its pricing, and then like Europe, and I'm sure you sold to China and stuff too, right? Like you sold.
Yeah.
Like you sold.
There's every country has their own kind of quirks.
Okay.
So I can't ship to China directly.
Okay.
I ship to Hong Kong. And however I legally ship from Canada to Hong Kong, and they legally import it into Hong Kong.
Okay.
Hong Kong and Chinese citizens can move freely back and forth from Hong Kong to China. So I legally ship to Hong Kong. Most of those animals are going to end up in China. I ship to Hong Kong. If they legally arrive in Hong Kong and they somehow mysteriously get to China, that's not me. That's not the way it goes. But the majority of the snakes that go to Hong Kong eventually get into China. There's been talk. Every 2 years I'll get an email from somebody in China to say, "Oh, the government's changed and the policies have changed, and you can ship snakes to China now." And it's like, okay, you prove it to me that I can ship snakes to China, and then they'll come back, "Oh no, we can't ship snakes to China." So
always push the envelope, bro. Oh man. But when you got people doing it like to that extent, it shows how much they want your shit, bro. Like, fuck, like, but still, it doesn't mean you should do it illegally. Like, you don't have to,
No, like, again, I'm a registered breeding facility with Environment Canada to get CITES paperwork, and so I can't do anything that's going to jeopardize that. So, if you're outside of North America, it has to go on an airplane to get shipped to you. I'll have guys to say, they can't do it now because of the pandemic and with the land crossing with Canada and the US being closed except for, essential travel. But all of Americans be like, I'm just going to drive across the border and I'm going to smuggle it back. I'm like, dude, now that you can't do that. Like, now that you've told me this, now I can't sell to you because, like, you just told me I'm going to buy your stuff and do illegal things with it. Like, it needs to have the proper CITES paperwork. It needs to have the proper U.S. Fish and Wildlife inspection. It has to be declared at the border. So it's like, I can't jeopardize because such of my, a good portion of my business is outside of Canada. I can't jeopardize, losing that ability, to ship. And, you get the odd, somebody, can you ship to Egypt? It's like, I've never shipped there, but probably. And it's like, oh, can you just put it in a box and mail it to me? It's like, no, dude, no. Like, I can legally get it out of Canada. If you can legally import it into Egypt, I can ship to Egypt. But I can't just put it in a postal box and mail it to you. Like, I can't jeopardize, my business. So.
Yeah. I will tell you that I started like seeing like the dwarf crocs, like the caiman, dwarf caimans.
Yeah.
I was in love. Like, I was like, I want some. And then I found out California can't have them, right? But yeah. I was still like, I don't care. I had this stupid mentality that I still wanted to get one. And I found somebody in Texas and he broke it down to me to where I was like, all right, you're stupid for even asking. Like, why are you asking for it? This is dumb. Because he basically told me how he's like, I'm not going to jeopardize my brand, what I've been doing. And like, he wasn't a dick about it. Like, he just kind of explained like what kind of fire you're playing with trying to fucking bring something like that across state lines. Cause I was like, dude, I'll just drive. I was like, don't send it to me. I'll drive. I'll go to your house and I'll pick it up and then I'll drive back to San Diego. And he's like, no, he's like, it doesn't. He's like, first, you shouldn't even be telling me this because I'm really not going to sell it to you. And I was like, God damn it. This is like, I was super green in this. I didn't really know. Like, I could have sworn, because back when I thought snake people or snake keepers were just like, like fucking bikers. Like, yeah, let's do, here's some money. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that's kind of what the vibe was, but no, it's not like that obviously anymore. Which is good. I'm glad. Like, this is like people take this shit serious and shit, because it's about the animals. It's not about us. It's not about what we want. It's about the animals. You know what I mean? So,
well, and every place has their own rules. Even when I ship snakes down to Florida, everything coming into Florida, even if it's coming from another state, they need an import permit to get it into Florida. So if you're shipping from Texas to Florida, technically speaking, the guy in Florida needs to get an import permit, into that state. I bet you 90% of the guys don't do that. They just put it in a box and ship it to Florida. But technically speaking, by the law, and there's lots of guys doing it legally down there that they do it the proper way and they get the import permit. But there's going to be a lot of guys that just don't follow the either they don't know the rules or they don't choose not to follow the rules. But all it takes is, you get that dwarf croc and you post one picture on the internet and somebody doesn't like you and they phone and complain and
that's it.
You're done.
And I guarantee that would have happened by now. Trust me. Fucking definitely found out, oh god damn, here's a pin on this guy's address. My cousin's a ranger in this county. He this person, that person, knock knock. Damn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, it's right, dude. Honestly, like last thing I want to do or have on my plate when you have this many animals is have fucking illegal fucking, you know, like possibilities. Like, why do you even want to balance that in with your animals? Because now you're just fucking, you know, it's kind of like saying, well, sure, I'll have mites in my collection, even though you shouldn't, but you know, they're still eating and stuff. Why not? Like, you're playing with, like, I mean, I don't know if that's a good example. I'm just saying, like, it's fucking stupid. Like, don't make your life harder when you're already trying to keep animals alive. You're trying to breed them and you're trying to make a business out of it. More likely, you know, a lot of people out there want to make a living off of it. They do. That's their goal. They could say they don't want to, but they're full of shit. People want to make a living off this. And it is about the money. It is about the money. Like, I'm not saying they like the money more. No, they love the animals, but it is about the money. Don't fucking try to fake people out. It's about the money. Like, please chill. You know, and that's fine because this is a passion. Like, yeah, that's a dream. It's like saying I want to go to the NBA. People love playing basketball, and that's really hard to do, to go to the NBA. You know what I mean? It's really hard to really make a sustainable life off breeding reptiles, because breeding reptiles is not guaranteed. It's not for sure. You know what I mean?
Well, like you want to have fun doing it, and you know, I deal with a lot of you know when you keep stuff and you internationally ship, you have to deal with a lot of government stuff. And it's just the way it goes. So it's like, okay, you need a CITES permit. Up here, I have to deal with Environment Canada. You know, down in the States, you deal with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, but it's a government agency, and it's like, I'm licensed with Transport Canada for shipping, so I don't have an inspection at the airport. I'm licensed and approved to ship. And it's like, you know, I've got an employee, so I have to take taxes off him and remit that to the government, and I have to pay, you know, I have to collect sales tax and all that stuff. So I deal with the government a lot, you know, but I make sure I pay everything on time. I make sure if Transport Canada calls me, I call them back right away. If Environment Canada calls me, I call them back right away. You don't, you know, you have to pay your taxes on time. It's like, I don't want the government bothering me for any reason. I don't want to give them a reason for them to start bothering me. It's like, you don't want the police to knock on your door for no reason. You know, it's like, you want everything to be fun. You know, you don't want the police knocking on your door because you got a Cayman and they're ready to kick your door in and send you to jail. It's like, oh no, I want to have fun. You know, yeah, you have to abide by the rules, and you have to, you know, deal with different government agencies, but you still got to keep it fun.
Because life should be fun. Like, what I mean, right? Yeah. Like, what's wrong with fun? Fun is awesome. You know what I mean? Like your hair looks fun as fuck. That looks great. I love it. How long you been rocking hair like that for?
So, I had a mohawk years ago, and then, in around 2010, I shaved it off, just had a low haircut. And then, you know, it's a little bit different in the States. Up in Canada, you know, the pandemic hit. Up here in March, everything got shut down. So it's like, I shaved my head for a lot of years. So it's like, okay, you know, I can't get a haircut, shave my head. No problem. Then when it was around May, it's like, okay, now we've been locked down for a while. I'm growing a mohawk again, and I'm not cutting it till it's open again. And I don't want hair touching my neck. You know, I don't want it to get long and crazy, but you know, I'm saying right now, as long as, you know, we're in lockdown and, you know, everything's not open, I'm growing my mohawk back. So it's this long now. You know, I obviously spiked it for the show. Usually it's just, you know, you wash it and it kind of hangs wherever.
Yeah.
But you know, up in Canada and in Ontario, it's like, you know, the big venues have been closed. There's been no reptile shows for almost a year. There's been no concerts. There's been no anything up here, you know, and you know, the smaller businesses, sometimes they're open and then they're closed, and then they're open and then they're closed. And so I'm growing this mohawk until we're back to whatever, normal, new normal, whatever you want to call it.
I guarantee you never get rid of that fucking mohawk. It's never going to be normal. Like, we're never going to be normal again. Like, yeah, well, life will go on. Like, life will always go on. but we're technically, and when I say we're, I'm just because we're pretty close to each other. Canada, it's not America, but we're fucking, you guys are just better example, as far as like what we should be doing. But I mean, I don't know. There's parts of Canada that's fucked up too. Everywhere's fucked up. There's no, but I don't know.
And there's stuff that you're just not gonna experience, and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers came up to Canada a number of years ago.
Right.
We went and we saw him, and then Tom Petty died. Like, you can't go see him now. He is dead, and I, just before the pandemic hit, I almost bought Rod Stewart's tickets. He was going to Barrie, Ontario, in one of the big outdoor amphitheaters. And it's like, I almost bought tickets for Rod Stewart. I mean, I don't know how old Rod Stewart is. He's got to be in his 70s. And you think, like, you never know how long these people are going to tour. And so it's like, I want to go see Rod Stewart, and now we can't. And it's like,
dude, and we lost a lot of good tour. We lost a lot of good people last year, bro. Like, we lost a lot of people, and this year it's not going to slow down. People are dying. Like, it's part of life. Like, people are legends this entire time are just fucking, they're just going out, and it's just like, it's just like, we're only here for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, we rent. Life is rented. You know what I mean? And you never know when the election day is going to come. But it's cool that you got to do Tom Petty. Are you kidding me? I would have loved to go see him.
Yeah, and I mean, now, there's going to be, a bunch of stuff that, I'd love to go see Eric Clapton. I've never gone to see Eric Clapton. So you think, I would love to go see him. He might decide, he might live to be 100 years old. He might be 130 years old. We don't know. He might decide, I'm never touring again. And then it's like, you can't go see him. And that's, it's just, where we are now with the, with everything.
Sure is. All right, I'm gonna show you where we're at with everything this, pretty soon, where you're at. Not pretty soon, sorry, but where you're at currently with your fucking projects, because this is nuts, bro. Like, the shit that you're working with, like, it's always been nuts, Corey. Like, you've always had some outstanding stuff. By the way, biggest props on that fucking baby blue background. That's such a signature Corey Woods Reptiles photo. Like, nobody will ever question, is this a Corey Woods photo, because of that background. And like, that has always worked for you. And man, I even tried to do something like that. I don't know what you do, and I'm not even gonna, dude, that's your shit. It works great. I couldn't pull it off, but it looks really, really good. But dude, your projects, man, these are definitely amazing stuff. Couple things I do want to talk about. Like this one right here, right? So this has the onyx. Is it called onyx, right? Or like, what's at play here? Okay, let's talk about that.
So the onyx is, a black pastel crossed with the het red gene. So, into the red axanthic complex. I've been working with the red axanthic gene. I produced the red axanthics, the first ones back in 2001, I believe. I think I got that written down, 2000 or 2001. And so it's like, I've been working with the gene for, over 20 years. And I wouldn't be working with black pastel. I was sent, I bought a bongo het red, long time ago. It turned out to not be bongo. It turned out to be a black pastel het red, so it was an onyx. And so I had made a bunch of crosses with them. So I ended up, when I discovered I had been screwed, and the project didn't, I didn't actually have bongo. I went and I bought, some bongo stuff, and I bought some cypress stuff to start breeding that in, because I find once, at least for me anyway, it's like, okay, I want to work with that project, and then you go and buy that project, and then if you got screwed or whatever, and it's like, but I still want to work with that project. Like, that's why I got into that. So I do have black pastel. I did end up breeding black pastel to black pastel. I produced the super black pastels. For me, they were messed up. So some people have produced some that are fine. I don't plan to do any of the black pastel breedings anymore. I'll just keep doing it to the het red to produce the onyx gene, and go that route.
Wow. Okay. Because like the the red exantic stuff has been in your projects for how many years now? Like, how long have you been working for that stuff now?
I believe I produced the first red axanthic back in 2001.
Wow.
So, you know, it would be, you know, 20 years. And so, you know, I had a guy a couple of weeks ago email me to say, are there any genes that you know of that, you know, are, you know, defective when bred to the red axanthic? And I got thinking about it. It's like, oh, like, you know, is there? And I can't think of one that, you know, because you would have, it's like if you breed, you know, champagne to spider, like that cross doesn't work, you know, and you know, spider to woma, you know, doesn't work. So it's like I have yet to come across a gene that doesn't work with red axanthic. If there is one, I don't know about it. But it's like, yeah, it made me reflect where it's like I've been producing red axanthics for 20 years, which is a long time.
That's a long time, bro. That is, I mean, I didn't even know that even at play for that long. Like I didn't. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's I'm definitely going to take back from this episode for sure. And then obviously this is the biggest genetic I want to talk to you about. And this is the reason why I keep it and work with it is Orange Ghost, because you work with Orange Ghost. I remember a while ago, maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, I inquired, I asked you if you had any GHI Orange Ghost. And I think you gave me a list of what you had, and you had one that was a possible het. But then I never actually, I don't know what happened to that. But where are you at right now with the Orange Ghost stuff? And like, is GHI, you still got the GHI Orange Ghost stuff at working in your stuff right now, or what's going on?
Yeah, I was kind of, you know, I've been working with the Orange Ghost. I got my first female in 1998. So again, I've been working with the Orange Ghost for a long time. I was kind of late getting into GHI. I think I got maybe 2014 or 2016. I got into GHI, and so I've been kind of slowly doing crosses with that. You know, I produced some Orange Ghost GHI crosses in 2020. You know, I've got a male breeding right now. He's an Orange Ghost GHI het red het pied. Wow. So I might have some like, you know, Orange Ghost GHA pieds and different, you know, combos like that. But yeah, I find, you know, a lot of people are in a rush to like, you know, I got to get this, you know, the first year it's out and I got to breed it, you know, as soon as I can. And it's like, I don't know, now I buy genes that I like. So, you know, if GHI has been out for 10 years and I finally get one, it's like, oh, I'm working with GHI now. It's like, cool. I don't have to be the first for anything. I just want to produce stuff for me.
Yeah, because here's the thing, Corey, like no matter how long a genetic's been out there, like you just have your own touch with what you work with. And if no matter, like if you have a simple gene as GHI, I guarantee if you put that GHI to the shit that you have, it's not going to look like any GHI that's ever been out there. It's going to be way different. Yeah. And I think you know that, obviously. That's why you go with what you like, because whatever you like comes out super fire, like super ridiculous. And that works for you. That's why like you're such a great example on like where people's mindset should where it should be when they're getting into a hobby like this. Based off what you like, don't go off what's popular or off what's like, you know, because I don't know, I'm like, you know, things change and then now you're stuck with something you don't even like and something that doesn't even sell. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, and there's a lot of genes I don't keep, and so it's like, okay, I've been keeping red axanthic for 20 years. You know, I originated the gene, but there's a lot of genes I don't have. You know, so there's a lot of stuff that's just I'm never going to do. You know, certain red axanthic crosses because I just don't have the genes to do it. And I think that's what makes the whole hobby exciting, because, you know, I just can't work. I don't think one person can work with everything. And, you know, if there's new genes come out every year, it's just not possible for you to have everything.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. My biggest question regarding Orange Ghost is Orange Ghost and hypo the same thing?
Yes. So way back, you know, everybody was kind of elitist, and it was like, you know, somebody would, you know, you'd pick a side and you'd be like, okay, this person has the best axanthic line, and this person has the best orange ghost line, and this person has the best albino line, and this person has the best caramel line, and you'd be like, okay, I'm only working with this one because I can't work with the other one because this line's better. And now, I mean, I think what we can take away from that is, you know, the genes get stronger when you outcross them. And, you know, if you say, you know, take it, you know, take your orange ghost, you know, I started with the nerd line orange ghost, and it's like breed it to the bell line orange ghost, and then get one from the snake keeper and breed it to that orange ghost. And you know, you gotta outcross stuff. You know, you got to keep the, you know, genetics healthy. And that was one of the problems, you know, way back when, where it's like, you know, I had all the lines of caramel, and, you know, caramels are prone to kinking, and caramels are prone to, you know, not getting good eggs from females. But, you know, I still had females produce lots of clutches of eggs, and I still had a lot of caramels that didn't kink. But, you know, people would be like, oh, don't mix the lines, you know, the bell line caramels, you know, better than the snake keeper line. And it's like, I got them all and I bred them all together, and I had better luck with them. So, you know, way back when everybody was getting back to the orange ghost, everybody was like, I've got the best line orange ghost, only buy my orange ghost. And it's like, you got to kind of get multiple lines in there and mix them together. So some people call them orange ghosts, some people call them hypos. You know, typically when you refer to a hypo, you know, you're referring to an orange ghost, you know, that now is going to be a mix of, like, you know, nerd orange ghost, bell line orange ghost. I'm sure VPI had a line orange ghost, and snake keeper had a line orange ghost. Like, it's just a mix of everything. But so far, I believe all of the orange ghosts and what people now just shorten to hypo are all compatible.
I definitely think they're compatible. I want to share one of my favorite productions I made last year, okay? And I'm going to just kind of see what the pairing was. And this is my very first ball python that I got, which started everything I have 4 years ago. So it was a female Mojave orange ghost paired to a GHI Mojave hypo, okay? I got a shit ton of bells, really nice looking bells, man. They had like really nice fucking like GHI lines on them, and I was like stoked. And then this came out, and I was like, damn, this thing is fucking sick. And like, I love GHIs, is like my huge number one. I'm committed to that project to the end, to the day I die. But I'm like wrapping my head, like, you know, because, you know, I even have a GHI hypo, and it doesn't look like this, you know, but it also doesn't have Mojave in it. So I've scratched my head over and over and over. And then I was like, do I call this a hypo? Do I call it an orange ghost? Does it even have hypo in it? What the fuck? So I was like, and you know, it's funny, way before I even thought about bringing you on this podcast last year, I wanted to ask you about this. And so now I have you here. So I'm like, I'm going to use this to my advantage. So what do you think? What do you think?
Well, and that's one of the, you know, I mean, this is one of the exciting stuff, you know, with the hobby is, you know, oftentimes I breed stuff and then stuff pops out and it's like, oh my God, how did this happen? You know?
Right.
And that's what makes things, you know, exciting. I found way back when it was kind of hard, you know, sometimes to pick out different genes where, you know, you would have like an A grade orange ghost and a B grade orange ghost. And then you have like an A grade, you know, super pastel and a B grade super pastel. So if you produce like the best of the best, the nicest looking super pastel orange ghost, it would like slap you in the face and be like, look at me, look at how awesome I am. I'm a super pastel orange ghost. Right. But then if you've got like a B grade, you know, like $1 super pastel or $1 orange ghost, it wouldn't necessarily, you kind of maybe have to squint your eyes to be like, I'm pretty sure that's a super pastel orange ghost, but I'm not sure. But if you knew the pairing, if you bred pastel orange ghost to pastel orange ghost, it's like all of the babies are orange ghosts. So it's like, I don't have to question that. Right. And then it's like, you know, and then, you know, if you knew what your options were, you know, it's either, you know, super pastel, or normal. It's like you'd have to like subtract what you don't think it is to try and figure out what it is. With your snake, you know, to me, I mean, it's definitely GHI. You can tell that.
Right.
I don't keep Mojave, but I'm pretty sure, you know, it looks like it has Mojave in there.
Right.
Does it have Orange Ghost? I don't know. That's questionable.
Yeah.
It could have Orange Ghost, and it's just, you know, a darker Orange Ghost. Or maybe there's some other gene in there, and who knows what that is. Or maybe it's just your atypical looking, you know, Mojave GHI. You know, it just came out wacky for some reason, and it's just individual variation.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Time knows. Time will.
Time will tell. You'll breed it out, and then you'll figure it out, and you'll be like, now I know what it is.
That's and
And
know,
then
like that now I understand, and I've always understand why you don't let go of females. Like why? I mean, and obviously that was a fucking female. Even if it was a male, I'm keeping it because I want to see what the hell's really going on with it. You can't really put a price on something you don't know, right? So, I also will never sell something I'm not too sure what it is and if it's something like that's outstanding, I'm like, man, like. Because you never know what you're really selling. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're better off like doing the long run and just seeing what it is. And even as an adult, it's going to be worth more. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I don't know. You just got to
and I find sometimes people, when you do figure it out, they still don't like if it's not something that looks the way it should, you know, if you know what it is from genetic, like if you produce something from a super, whether it be, you know, it came from a super pastel or a super GHI or a super lesser or whatever, you know, super spark, you know, if you produce a cross from a super spark, all the babies are spark. But if it doesn't look typical, people will be like, I don't believe you. And it's like, but it came from a super, it has to be. And then if it doesn't look typical, it looks a little different. People are like, oh, but I still don't believe you. And it's like, but it came from a super, like it has to be that.
Right.
So eventually you'll figure it out. But if you do decide to sell it, you'll still have people say, I don't believe you. And you'll be like, I proved it out. I know what it is. And they'll be like, I don't trust you.
You know, it's funny too, man. Like I've had people give me like crazy offerings on just basic 2 combos, just even like, you know, just basic snakes, just because how bomb they look. I mean, it's the quality that sells. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The quality will sell your fucking animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've come to learn that quickly in this game, and I love it. Now, I want to talk about, you know, we were talking earlier in the podcast about your demographic and how you breed your animals, temperature wise, is probably different than most and others. And I want to kind of dip in on that a bit and whatnot, and see what you meant by that. I mean, I know what you mean by that, but I want to kind of let's go further with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously up here in Canada, you know, I'm in Southern Ontario, so I'm not in the exact warmest spot in Canada, but you know, I'm pretty damn close to being the, you know, one of the warmest spots in Canada, but I'm still in Canada. You know, if it's, you know, going to be, you know, minus 10 Celsius during the day today, minus 20 Celsius at night. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. It's really cold. Right. And so, you know, even, you know, I kind of forget from year to year. It's like you winter ship and then you summer ship, and they're 2 totally different things. And so it's like you get used to summer shipping, and then it's like, okay, winter's coming. When do I start putting the heat pack in the box? And then you start putting the heat pack in the. When do I start putting 2 heat packs in the box? And then you get used to winter shipping, and then it's like, when do I stop putting heat packs in the box? And it's like, and then you look back and it's like, if I've been shipping for 20 years, why is it every season I have to kind of like figure this out? And, you know, you say every year, it's like, I should write all this down, but then you would end up having to write everything down. And then you'd have so many notes that you wouldn't go back and look at them, because it's like, I've got 4 million pages of notes. I'm not even going to look at them.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's the same kind of with breeding. It's like, you know, I do the same, generally speaking, thing every year. Is it exactly the same? No, because I don't necessarily write it down, but I kind of have the general kind of game plan where, you know, what works for me is, you know, November, I cut the heat at night, drop it down to like 70 Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. You know, I've got the hot spot during the day, like 95 Fahrenheit. That's the actual heat tape temperature. That's not the temperature in the bin. The temperature in the bin is going to be a few degrees, cooler. But I've got the probe right on the heat tape so that I know the snake can't bump it or anything like that. It's fixed in place, and I know the heat tape temperature. So November I start cooling at night, regular temperatures during the day. In around February, if I'm dropping to 70 Fahrenheit at night, I'll up it in February to 75, and then in March it's 80, and then in April it's 85, and then by May we're back to 95, day and night. I kind of explained to some people. I posted some pictures on the internet a couple months ago, I guess now, or last month, where my wife was pregnant back in December 2013. She had preeclampsia, so she was in the hospital on bed rest because they're like, the baby was early. It's like you can't move or it's going to jeopardize the baby. So she was in the hospital. So our power went out for 4 days, and I was running some generators and I was trying to get everything to work, but it's just, when it's minus 20 Celsius at night and, minus 10 in the day, and, you've got a couple small generators running and you're kind of doing your best, and, you're out in the country, so you've got a fireplace going, but you can't necessarily get water out of the well because you've got a small generator, trying to do other stuff in the house. I was like slowly losing the battle to keep everything warm. And so I had my females, they dropped down to like 55 Fahrenheit for 4 days. And I was to the point where I was like, is everything going to die? Am I losing my collection? Like, am I basically done? And, luckily, on the 4th day, the power came back on. Everything heated back up. And that was in December 2013. 2014, I had an amazing season. It was like one of my best seasons ever. And you're like, what happened? And it's like, I had no power for 4 days. And then it's like, so then the next year, my power didn't go out, but I still cut the power to the females for 4 days and allowed them to drop down to, 50, 55 Fahrenheit for 4 days. And again, another great season. And when I was younger, again, I explained I like to argue on the internet, and now I don't necessarily need to argue on the internet. So I let a few people know. It's like, I cool the females down to, 50, 55 Fahrenheit for 4 days, but it's not, I didn't post pictures on the internet because it's like, I just don't want to argue with people.
Right.
And, I was short some photos on my phone back in January. So I thought, I've been doing this for 7 years now. It's not like this is the first time I've done it. I've been doing it, since 2013.
Yeah.
And so, I posted pictures on the internet, and I didn't even comment because I thought I'm going to let the internet kind of argue with itself. And this is what, works for me. And it basically, came out of my wife being in the hospital and me trying to like survive at the house with no power for 4 days. And so I've been, doing it every year since, and it's worked for me, but that doesn't, we all have our own process. And so if you breed ball pythons and get them to produce eggs, and I breed ball pythons and I get them to produce eggs, we're both doing it right. We're both doing something right. So this is my process. It kind of freaks people out if you say I get my females down to 50 Fahrenheit for 4 days. They're like, no, dude, you're going to kill them. And I'm like, well, mine don't die and they don't get sick. So
shut up.
Yeah.
Oh man, dude. Oh, it's what's crazy though, man. The ones who are always making the most noise of like, oh my God, look what he's doing to his animals. Like, dude, they don't even keep animals. Like, they're not even like, for the most part, they're not even in it. You know what I mean? They're just viewers. They're on the sidelines, and they have other people who are viewers and on the sidelines who are just like picket rallying with them, like, yeah, like what the fuck, like. So it's like, you doing what you're doing and not paying attention is probably one of the best examples. Not only can I take advantage of, but like anyone, just don't pay attention. Like, do what you got to do and then leave. Like, don't even fucking get yourself involved in that shit, because it's just turmoil. You know what I mean? And Facebook is the worst. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just bad. It's not bad for everyone. I do have, there are people I built, like relationships I built off Facebook that I don't regret. Facebook is good, but if you pay attention to anything that's anything in Facebook, it's not going to go well. It's just,
again, I've kind of referenced it before. It's like when you're 20, it's like you're all full of drama and you're used to drama and you produce drama. And then when you're 40, you're like, I want to be drama free. And so it's like, I see lots of stuff on Facebook. I either don't comment, or I block the person or unfriend them or whatever. I'm just like, I don't need hassles at this stage in my life.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, who does? You know what I mean? Like it's something that comes with maturity as you get older. Like you said, you just don't have time for that shit. How many kids do you have? 2 kids, or how many kids do you have, Corey?
2. I've got 2. They're 4 and 6.
4 and 6. Okay.
Well, I guess, turning 7. Yeah.
And how do they fit in with the snakes? Are they all about it? Or are they just kind of like, they let you do your thing?
Yeah, I got 2 boys, so they're, they're right in there with the snakes, and they help out, taking females off eggs, taking babies out of the incubator. Oh yeah, they're right in. And I guess I'm maybe a little bit different than other people. I don't post pictures of my family online. My wife's online, and she'll the odd time post, pictures of, the odd time I'll post pictures of myself. The odd time she'll post pictures of herself, but we don't post pictures of our children online. And again, I think that's kind of an old school thing. When I was younger, if you wanted to see pictures of me, you had to go to my parents' house and look through a photo album. Now where, it's, so we just decided for us, it's like, we don't put, we're not putting our kids up on the internet. If they get to an age that they choose on their own that they want to put, pictures up, then that's fine. But so, yeah, I guess that's part of being a private person or whatever. Yeah.
That's the kind of old school mentality I want to have with kids, bro. Like, I nothing against, I have so many people, so many friends that just blast their kids on the stories, and like I could see it brings them happiness and light, and that's cool. But me, man, like I enjoy my fucking childhood so much, and guess what? There was no fucking cameras in my face. There was no phones in my face. We weren't sharing everything. All my favorite memories are kept with just my family. You know what I mean? And I love it like that. I really do. Because, there's some things that I just don't want to go back and see, like, oh God, that's what that's what my mom posted, really? Like, you know what I mean? Just, I don't know, like, but to each their own. Everyone has their own fucking path that they take. But I could tell you right now, what you just told me, the old school shit, I'm all for it. I love it. I mean, that privacy is fucking crucial to me. And teach their own, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I was brought up, I have really good taste in music because the way my dad brought me up with music, and I was brought up to fucking, if you're bored inside the house, like go figure something out to do. And there was always something fun to do if you just left the house. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but it's just, we're in a different age nowadays too, bro. It's just different. So that's why I respect people who have that mentality like yourself still, because, they don't make them like, Mo.
Well, and I'm kind of glad that I went through my teenage years when stuff wasn't posted on the internet, and because now if some of the stuff that we ended up getting into was posted on the internet, it's like, oh man, you wouldn't get away from it. So it's going to be the younger crowd when they get older. I think it's some of the stuff is going to be an eye opener. Yeah.
100%. Oh man, this has been an amazing 2 hours, Corey. I hope I didn't take you up for too long. I appreciate it, man. This is like I said, I mean, I would have to have you back for round 2, man, because I feel like there's so much more information I could get out of you. And you're a fucking great guy to talk to, man. So I appreciate you. Now, before I do let you go, I do have hot seat questions. I put everyone through a little hot seat question real quick.
Sure.
So are you cool with the hot seat questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool, man. Seat questions, just how they work. You know, I don't need an explanation. I just need you to spit out the answer. Okay. So, I'll take questions for Corey Woods going down right now. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Frozen thought or live?
I do both.
But like, okay, you had to pick one, and all your collections could do either or, and you have to just pick one.
Okay. You're never going to get everything to eat frozen, so you would have to go live. If you said you can only have one or the other, it has to be live.
Okay, there it is.
Because you're gonna have snakes that are gonna die because they're absolutely never gonna eat frozen thawed for you.
Facts. Okay. A cutter or no cut?
I used to cut. Now I don't have time to cut.
Okay, so everything comes out on its own?
Everything comes out. The only time I used to cut every clutch. I bet you I have cut 10,000 eggs.
Okay.
I am not anti-cut. If you're hatching 8 or 10 clutches in a day in your busy season, you just don't have time to cut. The only time now if I cut is if, like, let's say the whole clutch hatches and a couple days later one still hasn't cut, then I'll go in and cut eggs. So
okay. Respect.
Yeah.
All right. Big flexor or no flexor?
What's that?
You a big flexor or you a no flexor?
For what?
Okay, so so flexing is kind of like just like basically showing off in a way, you know what I mean? Like you're flexing, like bam, look how sick this is. Or you just somebody who's like, nah, I'm more like, not a flexor.
I'm
like,
more no flex.
Okay,
I'll post pictures on the internet and it's like, here you go.
But your hair is flexing, just so you know. Your hair,
I can cover it up.
No, that hair is flex. That's sick. Flexing is not always a bad thing. All right. Baseball or football?
I would prefer, I'm not a huge sports guy. I would prefer baseball over football.
Okay, respect. Steak or fish?
Steak.
Steak, okay. Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Sammy Hagar.
Wow. I think that's the first. Epic. All right, cool. Eminem or Machine Gun Kelly?
Eminem.
All right. If you had to pick one genre, West Coast rap or East Coast rap, what would you pick?
I don't know. Because I guess I just don't keep track. There would be probably both.
But you like, for instance, like the radio will never play one or the other. Which one would you get rid of? The West Coast one or the East Coast style of rap?
Give me an example.
Okay, so Tupac, West Coast.
Okay.
Dr. Dre, West Coast, right? And then you have Notorious B.I.G., Wu-Tang Clan, Outkast, East Coast, hip hop. Yeah.
And I will listen to both. So I'm probably not the best person to ask.
But what would you prefer? Are you Tupac or Biggie? You'd have to pick Tupac or Biggie. You have to pick one.
I don't know.
So you're saying Tupac is what you're trying to say?
No, okay. I would go the other way then. I'll pick Biggie then. There you go.
Right, yes, thank you. All right, Biggie. All right, cool. Little word association. First thing to come to mind: milk.
Milk bag.
Okay. Milk bag. Wow. Okay, cocoa.
Chocolate.
All right. Stuck shed.
Water.
Substrate.
Coconut.
Instagram trolls.
Delete.
All right. Now, one has to go forever, and you can't say you do both. I need an answer, one or the other. One is gone forever. Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook.
Wow. All right. There it is. You did it. You're wrapped up. Congrats, man. Good job on the hot seat questions. Dude, amazing time, bro. Like I said, I appreciate the 2 hours of you coming on. You've had a lot of people in the comments giving you love. We've had about 90-ish people this entire time. And what do you have to say to them, man? What do you have to say to all your followers, everyone who supports you, everyone who just love what you're doing? What do you got to say to them?
Well, obviously, thank you to everybody for the, support. I do get, a lot of kind emails and stuff come in, and phone calls, and, sometimes, you kind of do stuff and you lose track, and, you'll get an email to be like, oh my God, I love what you're doing. And I always appreciate hearing from my fans and people that appreciate the projects that I'm working on. And so, thank you to everybody for the support. Thank you, MJ, for having me on the podcast, and I hope everybody enjoys what I had to say.
Hell yeah. Round 2 worthy, 100%. Corey, thank you so much, man. I'll be in touch with you, and make sure you follow my man's Corey Woods. And like I said, I fuck with you hard, man. You got mad trap support. Thank you so much, Corey. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. And yeah, man, be safe. Try to stay as warm as possible.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Corey. Later, man.
See ya.
Whew, Canada's Corey Woods wrapped up. It's a wrap. What a fucking amazing episode. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Thank you for all the viewers, man. You got this Saturday cracking for my man, Corey, and I appreciate you so much. It means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Corey. And yeah, man, I hope you guys are going to enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I hope this Saturday got you pumped up a little bit. I don't know if anyone has snake chores to do like I do, but let's go, man. It's game time. Get ready for next Thursday night. Speaking of game time, I'm breaking more Canada history with the 2 guests I have bringing on. Yes, I said 2 guests. Okay, little Valentine's Day special. No, they're not lovers or anything. They're just really cool homies. And we're going to spread some love, heavy love. Valentine's Day special trap talk going down next Thursday night. And yeah, make sure you guys tune in for that. Again, thank you so much to all my trappers out there, all my Patreon trappers. Make sure you join the Patreon page if you want to see what's going on further with the trap. If you want to behind the scenes, if you want to see what kind of fucking private discussions we have, we're all trying to grow. That's what we're here for. Knowledge, pass it down. That's all we got to do, man. So subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. You want to become a trap family member? Go to the link below, hit the Patreon fucking link, and join, man. We got shit tapping in every other Sunday. We got sessions going on. So thank you again. Have a great night. Be safe. And yeah, man, God bless you guys. You guys are awesome.